Welcome to Living Above Self. I am Grace McLean, an experienced and certified financial advisor and retirement specialist who loves to share inspiring stories that impact people's lives. Each week on Living Above Self, you will hear insightful interviews, financial strategies, and the nuggets of wisdom to guide your week. This podcast is about you, it's for you. Welcome to Living Above Self. And today on Wise Talk, our interview segment, we focus on mindset growth and personal development. And our very special guest today is Debby Donaldson. She's a colon therapist, she is a philanthropist, she's an evangelist. The titles go on and on, but I want her to say more about herself. Let us know more about who she is and how she has come this far. So let us welcome Debby Donaldson. How are you doing today, Debby?
I'm doing very well, Grace. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being on your program.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm sure that our listeners and our viewers will be in for a treat. Today, colon therapy may not sound like a sexy topic,
Not at
an
all.
attractive topic, but our colons are important to us. What they say, the colon is like the irrigation system of the body. Is that so, Debby?
For most people who don't know what the colon is, it's the last part of the digestive tract. So the digestive tract is from the mouth to the bottom. So 6 feet of that extended into the anus would be the colon. It is said that life and death begins in the colon. And it's a topic that most people don't talk about because they think it is a secret. But like Bernard Jensen says that every cell, every tissue, every organ is fed by the intestinal tract, and the colon is a part of that. So therefore, if the colon or the intestinal tract is dirty, so is your cells, your tissues, and your organ. So in my mind, the thing to do is to make sure that we begin with the end in mind, which is the colon.
Wow, an interesting way of putting it.
Life and death begins in the colon. So if you want to experience life, make sure you have a good, clean, healthy colon.
And how do we achieve that?
Okay, we can achieve that by what we do. Doing exercise can help your colon. The way you eat, what you eat. We are what we eat and will finally become. There are some persons who are not concerned of what they eat because they say that they've seen their grandparents and their parents doing this and nothing didn't happen to them. But the thing about this is that all of us are different, and what goes for them might not go for us. And we are also living in a different age, an age where there are a lot of food additives. We have a lot of preservative to our food. And what we find is that the farmers don't practice crop rotation anymore. Sometimes they plant the food in the same area. So our foods we are shortchanged in some of the foods that we eat. And so the things that we eat are very much different from what our grandparents and our parents used to use. So we're living in a fast lane where most of us are going for the fast food, and we are not even taking the time to ensure that our colon are clean. Gone are the days when our grandparents, they used to do a little washout. When we used to go back to school, before we go back to school, they're giving us washout. No, we don't practice these things anymore. So we are shortchanged. We come down with a lot of degenerative challenges. And so our immune system, our bodies actually suffers in the long run. Our health compromises because of the things that we eat. the nutritive value which are very low, the water table that is very low, because sometimes instead of drinking water, we drink juice. And our bodies need actually 70% of water in our bodies to function on a daily basis.
There was something you said about the crop rotation. How does crop rotation helps the food that we eat? How does that benefit our health?
All right. My father was a farmer. And you know, every afternoon after school, we would have to go for lunch. And we would have to find him where he was growing his crops. No, we weren't sure where to go, because each time we noticed that he would plant the cabbage in one area. After he reaped that cabbage, the next time he wasn't planting cabbage there, he was planting in another area. So because the minerals in that particular area was used up, he didn't plant the same crop there. He found another area to plant the same cabbage. And so where would we find him? We would notice the smoke. So it was the smoke that we noticed that we would go to him to find out where he's planting next. And when I asked him, why did you do that? He says, if I keep planting the same thing in the same place, what will happen is that the minerals would be depleted in that original area and the plants would be stunted. There would not be enough minerals and vitamins in our food. And he knew that. He was hardly learned. He could hardly read and write. And my father practiced crop rotation. To me, that was so very essential in those days.
Yes, and I must admit that I did agricultural science in high school. And I did ask you that because I was taught crop rotation and the benefits, and there's some benefit in terms of to the plants.
Right.
Rotating the crops. You know, you plant a different crop each time.
Definitely. If there is not enough minerals and vitamins in our foods, our bodies will not be able to function properly. And so we would have to make sure that we supplement our foods. And it is always good to ensure that we get enough from what we eat.
You know, it is so important that we pay attention to our health.
Our health is our wealth, Grace, whether or not we want to believe it. Because there are times when we just give to the body anything, right? What I noticed, Grace, it's harder to buy foods than to buy a car. We will spend $3 million buying a car, but to make sure that our bodies get the right type of minerals and vitamins, we have a problem. Our foods these days are laced with only carbohydrates, right? And there is not enough. We have a system that our bodies have been depleted because of the type of foods that we give to our body. Just a slice of bread and some butter, maybe for breakfast, or rice. You'll find people eating rice every day. What about our cornmeal? What about our the different peas and beans and all of these things that are very nutritive in value than just having a slice of bread? Yes, and we would ensure that we save the last dollar to buy a car than to make sure that we buy what our bodies need to go on.
It is very important that we pay attention to the health of our colon and our health generally. I just want to say to you, Debbie, that, you know, it is very interesting to see how everything comes together. You look at agriculture, the connection to our health in terms of our colon, and just basically the food we eat, what we eat, how it is processed, how it is digested, and the energy that is derived from the food that we eat. And so at this point, Debbie, I want to ask you to share with us as to what made you decide to pursue a career in colon therapy.
Okay. I'm very happy for that question, Grace, because many years ago, I wanted to be a skin doctor, but I did not get my subjects to pursue the same. And so I ended up in business. So I used to work with this company many years ago. You might know the company, Home Electrics. And I
Yes.
was at Home Electrics doing accounts, but I wasn't being fulfilled in terms of what I can do, because in the back of my mind, I always want to be a skin doctor. And so I believe in working hard at what I do. And even though I was in accounts, I worked hard. But what I find is that almost every month I was becoming sick. I was becoming sick every month, in that my immunity was low. There was a lot of big pussy bumps in my face, and I was becoming weak, energyless, and listless. And I just wondered, because I thought I was giving my body what it needed to survive. So I remember a friend of mine, I said, he was asking me, why is it that my face was always looking like that? So I told him a story, and I said to him, I think it's because I'm having my menses. But he saw me another time, and it wasn't the menses time, and he said, you're having your menses now? And I said, no. I was so embarrassed, very embarrassed, Grace. And so I decided that I want to find out, why is it that every month I was having these bumps and I was feeling sick. So somebody introduced me to colon cleansing. And when I did one session, Grace, I felt like my old self. I started feeling revived. I started feeling renewed. I started feeling looking younger. And I started, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I said, yes, if I can be helped with just doing one session, I'm sure there are other people that is having the same problem and would want to know about this. So you know what? I gave my company notice. I resigned. And I started doing my research, and I said, this is what, no, I didn't get to do the skin doctor. So this is what I want to do. And
Yes.
Grace, it has really impacted my life. It has impacted my community every year, because by now I resigned. I started doing researches. I went abroad to study this subject. And when I came back, I set up an office there in Halfway Tree. I did not have anybody coming to me, Grace, but I was hopeful that somebody would come. And you know what happened? Nobody was coming. So I start advertising for pets, for people to bring their pets.
Oh.
And that didn't work either.
So what would you do with their pets?
Maybe to flush the pet, I don't know.
Oh,
Because
okay.
if the people won't come, the animal, I would take the animals to come, Grace. That was the length, that I decided that I would go.
Determination, yes.
Determination. And one day, I was listening to something on Irie FM. And Andrea Williams Green at the time, she was talking something up my street. And I said that I wanted to contribute. And I called in and I contributed to the program, Grace. And when I left Ocherius and came back to Kingston, I saw a lot of people sitting on the step waiting for me to come back. And that was the break I needed. After that interview with Andrea, things had never been the same. People start coming to me from all walks of life, to the extent that I start extending myself to Ocherius now, because there was where I was getting more of the advertisement. And I find that people was coming, they were getting help, This one was telling people about how they felt and what was happening to them. I remember seeing a gentleman. I was working in a place that you had to walk down a hill, and he could not come down the hill. He had to use a stick. And Grace, by the time I was finished consulting with this gentleman and he had his flush done, by the time I realized he didn't need to use his stick again. And
Wow.
so people started hearing about what was happening, this new modality, and they started telling other people. They were engaging me in their practice. I was going around, making presentation, talking here and there about this thing that I found, and I wasn't keeping it to myself. I was talking about it. People were getting help and their lives were impacted. I can't begin to tell you how many lives have been changed because of this modality.
Wow. Wow. And I too can speak to that. I did do several sessions with you. And I know that, yes, you felt energized. You felt like you have lost weight, you know?
Yes,
You felt like you had
it's
just
the
run a
waste.
mile, like you have
Yeah, it's
exercised.
the waste that is lost, Grace. Not really the
Yes,
weight, but the waste inside that helped to create the weight. You know?
yes, that created the weight. Yes, so true. So I've benefited from it. So I do know it's important to do a colon therapy. Get our colons cleansed and active, and so your whole body will benefit from it. So Debbie, I want to ask you, what do you wish you have known before you started your career as a colon therapist?
Grace, I wish I knew from the word get go that this was a vehicle to where I wanted to go. The greatest part of it for me was the fact that individuals were lives were changed. And I wish that after I left high school, I didn't just launch out into it. But you never know until you know. You have to
Right.
have the time, everything. For everything, there's a season, and there's nothing like the time, the present. And I had to learn a lot of things in order to groom me for that journey. You see, it was on a journey, and I was not actually ready to be a colon therapist until after I had that bout of illness, because I don't think I would be able to relate well to others if I did not know, or if I'd not been where I have been in terms of my own challenges. So I think the time I started was the right time. The time to impact other people, the time to teach other people about how important their health is, what they need to do, and how they need to go. They didn't have to wait until they have had challenges that I had. So I was really happy for the information that I was able to pass on to them, and they could pass on to their children. Because what I find was that the adults were now teaching their children, and even now the children who have grown have been consulting with me to take care of their health.
Wow. Wow. And it's good to pass on good habits to our children.
For children, oh sure.
Very, very good. It's not that it's not just good enough to pass on um, physical assets, but healthy habits. In terms of our health, our whole body, how we deal with our body, our approach to healthy lifestyle, right? So that's what we need to pass on those skills.
Another thing too we need to pass on to our children is the way to examine their stool, to look back. When you use the toilet, it's important that you look back to see what came out, because you can save your very life. The different coloration, you could be bleeding on the inside and you don't know, or because you just sat there and you just flush it and you didn't even know. You didn't notice that there was an infestation of parasite in the stool. You didn't know that there was tarry stool, which is an indication of blood. You did not, you don't know what is happening because you just sit, it came out, and you just flush. What is it? There are sometimes you have to look back. You have to teach your children to examine their stool, to look back on what they passed out. Because they could even say, Mommy or my father, I saw this and I didn't understand it. It's either that the mother is going to say, I don't understand it either. Let me consult with the healthcare provider. I mean, things like this can help your children in the long run.
Yes. And it reminds me in high school, I had a biology teacher. I had a biology teacher who told us that same thing. You know, she said, always look back. Don't just flush.
Yes,
Look at what
no.
you're flushing. So it is very important. And many times, as I said before, we don't talk about subjects like this. And it is very
Oh,
important that we venture there, because the colon is like the sewer system,
yes.
right? And so
Great
no matter how you build a house, if you don't have a proper sewer system, you can have major problems,
disaster.
right?
Yes, it's gonna be disastrous. You know,
Yes.
I've learned so much being a colon therapist, Grace. And I really want to use this opportunity to thank those individuals that I've worked with over the years. They have taught me a wealth of experience, and I can't begin to tell you. It has impacted me so much because growing up, we were always, people were always looking down on us. They were saying that we were like, we were treated as rejects in the community. And thanks to my mother who said that, you know, people can take what you have. They can rob you, but they cannot take what is in your head. And so from a young age, I was empowered that, you know, you can do anything you want, what you want to do. And by God's grace, you can do all things through Christ, which give you the strength. It has really taught me a number of things. I am so grateful for the wealth of knowledge that has been passed down to me through my client and through reading, through researching, through going to different conventions all over the world. I am so grateful for the information that I've gleaned, and I would never trade this for any other career.
Excellent. And your career has evolved to just more than just taking care of the colon. You now have a home health care service. And just let us know, how did that evolve? How did your career path change to add more services, value added
Okay.
service?
All right. So today, because of the pandemic, I'm not so active in doing colon cleansing. I'm doing like consultation for individual. But the situation arose where I had to take care of some unfortunate, vulnerable elders. And because of they said that where there is a pandemic, it gives opportunity. It was an opportunity to me to do everything under one umbrella, where I would see individual and also to assist vulnerable persons, right? So no more than any other time, I'm assisting those vulnerable persons who really don't have anybody to help them per se. There are individuals who have expended all their resources on their children, and they have ended up with nothing. I remember it was Rudy Riva who was saying that his mother worked so hard and she ended up with nothing. It's a situation like this, you know, and these people, they are important and they are valuable in the eyes of God. And so therefore, um, even if I am not paid to do it, I'm doing it because the least that you have done to one of these, you will do it unto God. And it's always a pleasure helping the vulnerable and also children who are not able to read. I also do an initiative called Reading for Survival. And it has sprung out of the idea that as children, when we were growing up, people saw us in the community as rejects. They saw us as not coming out to be anything. And you know, like I said before, our mother used to say, put your head to your book, take up your book, because that's going to take you out of poverty. And so what I'm doing now, I'm really volunteering with the elderly, with the children. I also volunteer at a school as a public servant. You know, it's a joy working as a volunteer. And it is a joy when you see people being benefited from what you're doing to help them with.
Wow. And that's what living above self is about. It's you know, the focus not just on building yourself up, but building up others. And so personal development is very important, because if you did not develop as a person, then you cannot add to others. And so I want to ask you, how important is personal development to you?
Very important, Grace. Some time ago, I thought somebody was complimenting me. And the compliment was, you are beautiful but not attractive. And you know that when I heard that, Grace, I went home and I looked in my mirror and I said to myself, what could this person mean? I'm beautiful, but I'm not attractive. So I realized that maybe I needed to put myself better. And out of that experience, it has really taught me that self-development is very important. Putting yourself together, making sure that you dress the part, making sure that you're able to be on top of things. And so I just having a career just wasn't good enough. I needed to maintain, and I also need to know that if somebody asks me a question, I'm able to answer them. So it also means that I am going to have to develop myself in terms of what I say, what I read, and how I deliver to others. So being able to justify my whole journey, I know that I had to make sure that I develop myself, not only mentally, not only socially, but also physically. Right now, I would encourage any person that to develop yourself, you have to make sure that you read. Reading make a man or a woman. Not only are you going to read, but you are making sure that you're abreast with what is happening, making sure that the information that you have is accurate, and also making sure that if and when individuals come to you for ideas, you are able to guide them in the right way.
Exactly. And I share your sentiments. And I do believe that you have grown tremendously, Debbie. What would you say yourself 20 years ago to yourself 20 years later? You know, the difference that your life has made over the past 20 years. And I ask you that because you have to have a growth mindset to move from where you were, where you were struggling and things were hard, to where you are now, where you have self-satisfaction and where you can impact others and pour into others. And so I want to ask you that question, Debbie. How have you grown as a person from the individual you were 20 years ago to who you are now?
For people see me and they will see me as a loving, a kind person. 20 years ago, I was always a kind person, but I had this challenge where I would do things very hastily because you want it to be out of the way. But now I've grown as a person. I'm not that hasty anymore. I take my time because you have to weigh things before you respond to it. There was a time, and I'm still having the little challenge with I'm having a little temper issue where, nobody could say anything to me and I don't defend myself because I had a sharp mouth. But now I see where the Lord dressing me up. Yes. And there are times when I would really want to answer somebody in a particular way. I have to realize that I am not the same person that I used to be. And how I used to respond, I have to probably count like 10 to 10 and say, a soft answer turn away wrath, but grievous word stir up anger. My sister would say to me, there were times when I was so sharp in what I do, I don't think about anything. But now I can say the same thing in a very loving way, and I don't offend the person. And I think that if I can get to this place, there has been an external force that is working on me. He's not finished with me yet because I am still under construction, Grace, and God is not finished with me yet. And even though I minister to others, I want to ensure that at the end of the day, I am not an outcast. And I really thank God for the ministry that He has provided, for that I share with my daughter on a Saturday evening between the hours of 2:30 and 3 o'clock. It's really good ministering to people.
Just sorry, Debby, what platform do you use to do that so that the listeners and the viewers can tune in? Because the podcast is listened to and viewed globally. I know you have a social media platform that you do these interviews.
It's on Facebook. On Facebook on Saturdays, we are there 2:30 to 3 o'clock.
And what's the name of your Facebook page?
It's just Debby Donaldson. And also we have a charity by the name of LIKKLE, Little Deeds of Kindness, where we impact other people's lives. We will go to the different places. We will clean their houses. We will feed the hungry. We would give out care packages. We would, and what you would notice if you go on Little Deeds of Kindness, I don't even ask for a contribution.
Is it a website that you have?
No, Little Deeds is also on Facebook.
Okay, so there's a Facebook page for it.
Yes, for Little Deeds of Kindness. LIKKLE. You will notice that we don't even ask for any contribution, but we welcome any contribution that you're able to give us. We do Reading for Survival. People come from all over to help us to for individual to read. We go, we take care of the elderly. We clean their houses. We feed the hungry people. We help so many people. But this is what Jesus would have wanted us to do. So if you feel impressed that you want to assist by God's grace, go ahead and do so. But our main thing is to make sure that individuals are able to live their God-given potential, and they too can be helpful in society.
Okay, so thank you so much, Debby. You are so passionate about so many things, but I want you to share with us, what are you most passionate about now? In your life, where you are right now, what are you most passionate about?
As it is right now, Grace, I am passionate about helping the elderly, vulnerable folks who really don't have anyone to help them. No one to stretch a dollar to them. No one to help to give them a cup of water. No one to help to bathe them, to feed them. This is what I am passionate about. I want to make sure that I am helping the elderly to make sure that at the end of it, they are not depressed, because it's a journey that all of us are tending or going on. Some will get there faster than others, But you know, is what you do in life will help you tomorrow. I might help this person today, and it's not the same person that will help me tomorrow. But I am doing this because even though I have children of my own, I have grown 5 children of my own, I can still lend a helping hand to somebody else who need my help. Those children I have passed the worst and they can help themselves. But there are others who need my help. And this is what I am now doing on this last leg of my journey.
Wow. Just wow. And I know also that in your home care business, the services that you have provided, that there are at least two persons who have been abandoned and you are taking care of them. Elderly persons who were brought to your care and their families did not come back for them, you know, and this what you have been doing, you know, in your community, in reaching out to others, to strangers. You know, as the scripture says, you are building up treasures in heaven, right? And this is what we are here on earth to do, to build up treasures in heaven by how we live our lives on earth. And I am seeing where the more you have been giving is the more you have been receiving, is the more help
Amen.
you have been getting, so to expand what you have been doing, even without you asking.
Amen.
And
Amen.
that is telling us something. You know, that is telling us something. That is in giving that you receive. And it's
Yes.
best to give than to receive, because there's so much blessing in giving. And if we only would realize how important giving is, we would give more and we would not be worried and concerned that we are gonna be running out of money and running out of resources. Because as you give, so you will receive even far more than what you have given.
You know, Grace, I also realize that we are so blessed. There are times when we tend to hoard things and they dry rotten on us and they spoil on us. We throw it out after a time when other people could have benefited from it. The more I give is the more I don't even have space sometimes. And I really don't want to hoard things. So I'm always finding somebody. I'm always finding somebody to make sure that I bless them with something. For this Christmas season, we are going to the different infirmaries and we are going to be giving out care packages. We're also going to be giving out care packages in and around this community as well as other communities. So if you have a community and you want us to assist by just giving some of the things we have, then I would invite you to come on board and be a part of what we're doing. We always need hands to help us. We need hands and we need feet to help us. So if you are there and you need to help us to transport some things, as it is right now, I have some things for the St. Thomas Infirmary. I have some things for the Manchester and the Clarendon Infirmary. So if you are listening to me and you want to participate by just helping us to transport some of these things, then we would be so delighted to have you on board.
Okay, so thank you so much, Debbie Donaldson, for being our very special guest today, because we learned so much, you know, about healthcare. We learned about, you know, giving. We learned about being very charitable. It is so mind-boggling to see that one person can actually make a difference, that you set out on a journey and you alone and without asking for support, you started alone, and then out of that other person saw what you were doing and decided to help, and before you know it, you are able to reach far more persons than you alone could possibly reach. And this is what we're saying. When you are bold enough, when you have the courage, when you have the passion of giving, and you have decided that I am going to go there because there are things within me that I need to impart to others. All right, your kindness, your generosity. Others take note, others want to also be generous, also be kind. And you don't take thought as to how where will the resources come from? But you trust in your Heavenly Father that He will provide for you. And He has certainly been providing. And so we want to really thank you for the lessons we have been taught today about giving, about having a passion to serve. That's what is meant by living above self, about personal development. You have taught us lessons on personal development and how that has helped you and how you have grown. So the growth mindset, which this program is about, focusing on personal development, growth mindset, resulting in a life of living above self. Thank you again, Debbie. Before you go, we ask that you leave us your contact information so that our listeners, those who are listening and are viewing, who may want to make a donation to your foundation, can do so. So I don't know if you have a number you want to leave with us, or an email address, or your website, your Facebook page. I know your Facebook page is Debby, Debby
Yes,
Donaldson.
yes.
And the other page is Likkle.
KKLE, deeds of
No,
kindness.
no, I want you
Little,
to spell it.
Likkle, little but with talawa, little deeds of kindness. Deeds of kindness. That is a Facebook page.
Right. So
Little.
it's Likkle Deeds of Kindness. So Likkle is our Jamaican patois.
And my phone number is 876-885-6164.
Repeat the number,
That's
please.
876-885-6164.
Okay. So thank you very much, Debbie Donaldson. It was an absolute pleasure having you on board with us today. And I'm sure that our listeners would have been informed and they would have learned something they didn't know before, especially about taking care of our colon. Life and death, you say,
Begins in the colon.
begins in the colon. So
Yes.
that's the takeaway. Life and death begins in the colon. Let us take care of our colon so we can have life, we can have a longer life, we can enjoy our health, right? It's important that we enjoy a healthy lifestyle. So thanks again, Debbie, for being on board with us on Living Above Self.
It has been my pleasure, Grace. Thanks for having me.